Hi everyone. It seems that the timing of my last video caused a bit of confusion, so I thought I'd do a follow-up showing Intelli-talk using a modem to communicate with a BBS and explaining a little bit more about how it works. I promise this will be a shorter video than the last one. My setup today is a little different. Instead of being connected to my laptop, the keyboard component serial board here is instead connected to a 56K modem here. It's not exactly accurate, but it'll suffice. So let's fire up Intelli-talk by pressing J as before, which will give us the Intelli-talk splash screen, and then we will dial Magnum, which is a UK BBS with dial-in access. To try to get some semblance of authenticity, I'll restrict the modem to 1200 baud by typing AT@N2, and then we can dial Magnum AT/DT 01484 32000 and the modem does its thing. We're dialing. There we go, the familiar squeal. We should get a connection. There we go, 1200 baud connection. And the first thing that Magnum will ask is which bit of the service we want to connect to. I'm going to use Magnum because we can use a guest account. So it will now go through the login process. And we can log in as guest. Our terminal does not support ANSI graphics, so it loads messages, and now it's asking us to set up a kind of a pseudo account, so we can enter a name, we can enter an email address, entirely fictitious obviously. We are residents of London, London, and we heard about the BBS online. And from here, if we hit a key, we get to the kind of main menu, and at that point we can go through use the BBS as a normal user. We can obviously browse around, etc. As I said, Intelli-talk is very simple, so it doesn't understand control and graphics codes, or only a minimal set. As you saw, the graphics are rather garbled, but it's good enough to interact, as you've seen, with a simple BBS like this. What this does illustrate is that most BBSs are set up for an 80-column screen, not the 40 columns of the keyboard component, and that's why we see the line wrap here happening. So going back to my last video of posting to Atari Age, what was real and what wasn't, and how was it done? The first thing to say is that technically everything shown in the video was executed and streamed using the keyboard component in real time. There were no cuts, camera tricks, or other sources of data. That said, I doubt very much whether Nermix has a keyboard component tape with Intelli-talk on it. What you see me using was reverse engineered, but the only piece of evidence to base its behaviour on is Paul's signature. Everything else was put together by me from my fevered imagination. And as I've shown, it seems to work. As such, it's a proof of concept that Mattel could have done something similar in the 1980s if the keyboard component had made it beyond test marketing. And that brings us to the interaction with Atari Age, and the reason I didn't use a modem last time. Al, who runs AA, hasn't created a 40-column text mode API for the service, although I don't really think there's a reason that such an interface couldn't be created. So I can't just dial into a US number and connect to Atari Age. Instead, I wrote a program to take text requests from Intelli-talk and then make regular HTTP browser requests to Atari Age using my Wi-Fi. The program then reformats the responses before sending them to the keyboard component. The program acts as a broker, adapting between the keyboard component and AtariAge. It was this program that Intelli-talk was communicating with in my last video, and this is why the AA demo looks so much better than the BBS demo I've just shown. The adapter program formats the AtariAge content for the 40 columns of the keyboard component screen. The adapter program also generates the prompts for things like topic titles and the login interaction, which most of you realise was inspired by David's first conversation with Joshua in Wargames. Whilst there are one or two other Easter eggs in the video for those with keen eyes, my mistake in typing the word video in the AtariAge posting wasn't one of them. This was a genuine error, and one which I couldn't correct given that the posting and stream were done live. As it happens, it provides a little bit of evidence that everything really was done in one take. This also explains my care in transcribing the YouTube ID. I only got one shot at doing this correctly, and my assistant's handwriting was a bit ambiguous in places. Happily, I guessed correctly. I had hoped to increase the authenticity by locating the laptop running the adapter program at a friend's house, and then using the acoustic coupler to call to it from the keyboard component. Unfortunately, in addition to my acoustic coupler being broken, which it is, UK pandemic restrictions meant that this wasn't possible. Anyway, I hope this gives you a little peek behind the curtain and clarifies how things were done. Until next time, cheers.